And like always, we are recording this meeting so we can put it on YouTube for our friends who were unable to attend. Hopefully y'all brought some good questions for us. We've got Glenn Howie, the broadband director, with us to kind of help, discuss and chat about everything. If you are without a microphone, I see a few people saying they don't have microphone. That's fine. We can answer your questions in the chat. So we can go ahead and get started. I've got the recording going. What we're going to do, this is our first office hours meeting. So like I said, we don't really have a set agenda. We do have some updates to share with you with what's been going on with us the past couple of weeks. And then, just to go ahead and mark your calendar, our next meeting is going to be on August the 10th, back on a Thursday, where we'll have an affordability discussion. I'm working on recruiting someone to give a presentation, but otherwise I can do that. So I've got a lot of experience with the ACP program myself. And then after that, we're just going to open the floor and let anybody who wants to talk about anything broadband in your committee, let's hear about it. So just to get started, some updates from us. Our 5-year action plan, which I know we talk about often and we talked about in our county road trip meeting. That's the executive summary document that we have to have available for the U.S. Department of Commerce in a few weeks. It's in the design and final editing process right now. Glenn has it, and he is about finished with his edits. Our next stop from there is to deliver it to the governor's office and let them read through it and comments, and then we shall have it out for you guys to review. So keep your eyes and ears open. We'll post that on our website, broadband.arkansas.gov, when it's available. And then we'll also have a public comment period for that. So once you read it, we'll have a form available for you to just sign in and give us your information and what comments you have. Do you love it? Is there some things you think we need to add and work on as we plan out basically the next 5 years of broadband expansion in the state? Last Friday.
And real quick
Oh,
on
go
that,
ahead.
Lori. Just to remind everyone, it's not it's sort of, again, it's an executive summary kind of overview draft. So this is not going to be a super thick, detailed document. It's about 45 pages or so ish. So again, sort of an overhead executive summary view, and the more detailed document will be later in the year. Just wanted to clarify that for everyone.
Right. Mr. Bright, did you have a question?
No, sorry. My screen's really small and I clicked the wrong icon. Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Hey, we're all like learning how to use Teams, like I think together through this process. So
I was trying to click on the chats button and I hit the raise hand button. Sorry.
No, you're good.
Inadvertent digital skills training.
That's right. That's right. We just have, we're really excited to tell everyone that we, as of last Friday, secured an agreement with McKinsey & Company to help our office with the initial proposal document that's due at the end of the year. And that is like the big plan that, we were just talking about the executive summary. The initial proposal is the big plan. How are we going to run our grant process? How are we going to run a challenge process? How are we going to connect all 175,000-ish locations across the state to broadband with this BEAD money that we're working on? And then lastly, Glenn, do you have anything to add to that?
No, good job.
Okay. And then lastly, just a huge thank you to anyone and everyone who's especially shared like our Facebook post about the Digital Skills and Opportunity Survey. We have actually, I put 6,000, it's actually over 6,500 responses so far, and our goal was 2,000. So we really, really appreciate everyone for sharing the survey, taking the survey, getting the survey out to your friends and neighbors and baseball teams and everyone else that you come in contact with. We still have some time. So if you do know anyone who's not shared it or not taken it yet, that survey is going to actually stay open until August the 2nd. So if you are with a service provider, we would really appreciate it if you could post something on your social media about it or share something with your subscribers. If you have a membership, any kind of email distribution list with your working life, it doesn't even have to be your personal life. If you could just share our survey, we're really needing as many responses as possible because that helps make a better plan. Right now, if you're in the Delta counties, Phillips and Lee, all the way up to Mississippi County, honestly, and all the way down to Chico County, we really need some responses from that side of the state and also the southern tier. So Miller, Lafayette, Columbia, Union counties. From what I'm hearing, now I've not seen the data myself, but they are still like really soliciting more responses from those southern tier and then along the Mississippi River Delta. We've got a lot of responses from Northwest Arkansas. Yay. We got a lot of responses from Central Arkansas because there's just more people in those two areas. But, we've got a great output from Northeast Arkansas and just like the central part of the state's doing great. So if we could get, if you have any friends or family in that southern row of counties or along the Mississippi Delta, please get them our survey and ask them to fill it out and share with their friends there in the area. Yes, Mr. Hales, how are you today?
I'm good. Good morning. I just had a
Good morning.
thought. Whenever we're sending those out, it probably would be good to be clear that these are new surveys because a year, 18 months ago, we wore out Chico County and we had, I don't know how many people out there soliciting those, and they may think this is the same survey they were already completed. So we're going to indicate this is a new and necessary survey. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Good point too. Mhm. Let's see here. So down to the survey. The other thing, there's been we get a lot of newsletters, like every single day it seems like, but there are some new tools that some of our I'm not going to call them partners, but people that we keep up with in the news have put out. And I'm going to email these links to you, so don't panic that you can't click on it from your screen right now. But there are some new tools that are available where you can search by zip code and check out some data as it relates to affordability and digital opportunities. The first one I've got linked there is from the Benton Institute, and they do a lot of, it's a nonprofit that does a lot of research and analysis of broadband issues. And I'm trying to see if I can share my window, not the screen. Hold on one second. I'm going to pop over there if I can. Like I said, I'm getting digital skills training at the same time y'all are. So let's see if I can share this screen there. I think that's worked. So I think you can see my browser now, but this is the Benton Institute's affordable connectivity performance tool. And on this website, all you have to do is put in your zip code up here and press enter. And it's going to show you for your zip code what the ACP program is doing in that area. So if you are focused on affordability right now, and of course, I just told you our next meeting in a couple of weeks is going to be more about affordability, but this is a great place to start. I live in Sherwood. That's like the first zip code that comes to mind. So you're looking at the Sherwood zip code right now. But once you do that, it'll show you, how many people are eligible to enroll in the ACP and how many people actually have, and then how that relates to the rest of the country in participation. So it looks like in Sherwood, there's 536 people enrolled in the ACP, which comes out to a little over $19,000 that's being put out in the county. But there's, even though there's 536 people claiming the ACP, it looks like there's 4,400 eligible households. So that's going to give you, especially those of you in our county committees that have been asking me, how do I get more information about just my county or just my area? This is going to be a great source for you as it relates to the ACP program. One of the other links that I'm going to send to you after the meeting is the Digital Opportunity Dashboard. And with this, it actually starts out on a cover page here, but you can look up by state or zip code information about digital skills and other data
Lori.
within your county. Yes,
Laura, real
sir.
quick, you want to maximize the screen?
Yeah, I can do that. Does it make it work better?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. So I'm gonna hop it over because we don't care about Texas. But the same, here I can't see what I'm doing because my computer's in the way. The same kind of thing is that there is a little search thing here. So you can type in a zip code, or again, I'm just gonna put where I live because that's what's of interest to me. But you can zoom into your area and see, you know, what's going on in this specific area. Oh, wait, I don't see. I'm learning how to use this website myself. But you'll see county specific data at the top up here. Scroll down, Pulaski. And then once you click on a county, it actually gives you, where was I at? A county profile. Maybe that's where I was at on this tab. But anyway, there's way more data. I haven't, like I said, I haven't had time to really do all the digging on this website because there's a ton of data on here, and it's related to school districts and, you know, how many people qualify for a free and reduced school lunch and how many people have a computer. So you're going to get, it just jumps to like Texas counties because I guess Texas is the most awesome state or whatever. But so like in Benton County, you know, here's all your school districts. And then here's some information about the household income and whether or not they have internet. And this is just like cumulative data that this nonprofit's been able to organize. So lots and lots of information that we'll be using actually as part of our digital skills and opportunity plan. But I wanted to give you an ability to also see that on your own county basis. So again, I will email you this link in the next, well, before the day is over for sure. The other two links I've got linked on my slide, which I'm not going to pull back up since I'm already over here. Just to remind you of like the FCC maps that are available. Let me click on this one first. The FCC broadband map is the one that's location by location. And, you know, you can type in anybody's address and it will pull up Little Rock. What's, you know, what they're, of course, it doesn't know who we are because that's a business, but and it will show you who the providers are for that address and if what level of service is available. So of course, if I'm looking in Little Rock, you're going to have people that have way more than 100 by 20 service. But we're going to spend a lot of time on maps. That's probably the most common questions I get from the broadband committees is maps. So we're going to spend like a whole hour, maybe even multiple meetings on how to read the FCC broadband map, how to research it, and then how to use that information to inform your committee better.
Yeah, and just to jump in real quick, Lori, on this, is that we're going to do some targeted programming and training for our ABLN members on this call and others eventually, and walk you through very detailed on this to get you prepped and trained up for when we get to the mapping challenge process that's going to happen. And so a lot of the base data that is going to be in the new state map that we'll use, because remember on these county visits, we talked about having a challenge process to make sure we get the map right fixed before we do infrastructure grant rounds. Just to follow up on this, we're going to do some targeted sessions and webinars and training for folks on how to read this thing, get used to it, to be able to prepare yourselves and be ready for the challenge process when that rolls out, likely first quarter next year. I just wanted to cover that for folks.
Yeah. So just real quick, and I know if you were watching what I was doing while Glenn was talking, but a couple of the things that I usually, if you ever email me and ask me about maps, I always tell you to go to the gear setting and then change your filter because really we're looking for people that are providing 100 by 20 or greater service. And then we want to exclude our satellite people. So just out of habit, I always click cable fiber because we're looking at wired stuff a lot of the time. But there are some fixed wireless providers who are able to provide that 100 by 20 service. But even in we always talk about, the unserved and underserved and how, my area is served. I just did, someone had emailed me earlier in the week and was asking about Jonesboro. Jonesboro is one of the largest cities in the state, especially in Northeast Arkansas. And you'll see, even in the city of Jonesboro, although a lot of people have service, there's still like individual dots in the town for some reason that don't have service. And that was kind of why the person reached out to us, because they are aware of this and they were trying to figure out where to find proof of it. So if you'll do, take some time, but do some playing around with the map, and you might actually learn that where, we talk about the rural, everyone thinks it's just a rural broadband issue, but I know a lot of you don't necessarily live out in rural areas, and it's also a problem within our cities as well. The last link that I'm going to send to you is the broadband funding map, which looks exactly like the FCC's regular map. But we talk a lot about the funding programs that are available. And, we have a lot of people in Arkansas who may not be eligible for an Arkansas Rural Connect grant because they already have funding assigned to their address. And that's going to be programs like the Rural Digital Opportunity Fund, the Connect American Fund, all of these funds that have federal dollars already assigned. So again, just like on the broadband map, you can type in your address or someone's address, and it will tell you if it's already been funded or if it's not been funded. So if you don't have service and you're trying to figure out, okay, am I going to be able to get the service with Arkansas's new money that they've been talking about, or maybe it's an FCC program that they told us about in a meeting in the past. This is a good place to do that. So, that's kind of my process when people call here wanting to know, when am I going to get service, is the most common question I probably answer. I usually do some digging to find out, well, who's funding that address, or is it funded at all? And if it does have funding assigned to it, I kind of give them information about that program. Like most of the people that call here either are not funded yet, which means they're going to be eligible with our new money, or they're part of that FCC Digital Opportunity Fund, which is the RDOF program. And then I could go back and tell them about the RDOF program. But again, maps are something that's on a future agenda, and I promise we will spend a lot of time talking about maps at that time, or when that comes up. So stay tuned. Let me switch back to my slides. And again, like I said, we will send you links in an email later today to all of those websites that I was just talking about. Let's see here. Jump to resources. So having said all of that, I'm going to put the links in the chat for you, Mr. Rick, just one second. But what do y'all want to talk about? I'm going to scroll back up here to some questions, because I do have some questions from Montgomery County that emailed me that we can get to. Glenn, do you want to take questions?
Yeah, I'm here. So I'm available to answer anything that the folks want to talk about today.
So Daryl, congratulations that Paging Electric apparently is outside your house. That's progress. Good job. Good way to go, Searcy County.
Lori,
Let's see here.
quick question.
Mhm.
I'm gonna give you one. Where are we at on the County Broadband Committee count so far?
So we are somewhere between 35 and 40. I want to say 38, 39. I've got a couple of lists actually I got in the email this week. So I did want to say, since you brought that up, if you have people on your committee who are not getting the invites to these meetings, I apparently don't have their email address, or I have an incorrect email address. So if you need to see like the email address list that I have on file for your broadband committee, let me know and I'll send you a copy of the spreadsheet that was provided to me at some point in time that I used to build those distribution lists. So yes, I want to make sure everyone's getting the message, and I highly recommend you do forward these invites out to anyone that might want to participate. Let's see here. Kathy in Chico County. The responses we need have to do with the digital skills and opportunity survey, which, like Rick just said, it's a new survey. I have it linked on our Facebook and on our LinkedIn and on our Instagram, but I don't have your email address, I'm pretty sure, because I don't have a Chico County distribution list. I only was emailing the judge. So if you don't mind, I'll put my email in the chat and I'll send you a link and some like social media graphics and stuff that we've been using and sharing with people to help you get the survey out this last week. Trisha from Benton, Washington County Committee. Glenn, I'm gonna let you answer this one. Do you want to talk about the process for applying for the new grants and when that will be available? And so the timeline basically. And if we have any current thoughts on the new application process that we're going to use that you want to share.
Yeah, good questions. So one, just to give everybody some relief, I'm literally typing and working and editing our 5-year action plan executive summary document as we're doing this meeting. So just to give everyone some relief, we're actively working on it and get it out as fast as we can for everybody. But so specific to kind of the time frame and what that looks like, the best, and look, we met with our entire team yesterday, broadband office team, our executive staff here within the Department of Commerce, and our consultants. We all met yesterday actually on this topic of timelines. And if you had to ask me right now what that looks like, I would say that we are going to do, it is sort of on the board at the moment to run at least the first infrastructure grant round, okay, based on the BEAD funding, sometime in Q2, Q3 next year, right? So sometime between April and September is when we, at the moment on the timeline, looks like we can perhaps run our first infrastructure grant round off of those dollars. That's sort of the time frame for the infrastructure grants. On what was the other part of that question, Lori? The process? Okay. I think it was a process question. Essentially, again, we're still baking these plans and we're going to share it with you as they're drafted and get your feedback and get how you feel on it and how we can improve this thing and make it better if you feel like we should. The working whiteboard plan at the moment is that the ISPs themselves, okay, well, first that the state is going to have some version of predefining the project footprints. Okay, so in the old way, the ISPs would get kind of with the county judge or the local mayor, design a project footprint and submit it to the state. This last round that we did as a state was based upon the state drawing out the project footprints on the front side. And so we think there's going to be some version of that where the state will again draw out project footprints, put those out for competitive bid, and then ISPs will apply in a competitive process using a scoring matrix. The same scoring matrix will get compared and scored against all the applications that come in, and highest scores would win those particular projects. So at the current time, for infrastructure specific projects, ISPs would be the ones who would apply. I think some folks are probably, from our trips and the 75 trips that we made around the state, I know some folks are concerned and worried. Well, how do we make sure someone applies for our location in our county? And I say that's where if you read into the toolkit, right, that we sent out to help you guys organize, is the better relationship building that you can do as a county committee with ISPs that are already in your area, with ISPs that you perhaps like that are in a neighboring county or you hear good things about. The more you can kind of build relationships with those ISPs from a county committee perspective, the better. I think ISPs are going to be more likely, and I can't speak for them, but I think they're going to be more likely to apply for an area if they know that the local folks want them, right, and are supportive and are interested and they have a committee and they're working hard on this stuff and they show an interest. I think that helps. And so I would say, as best you can, and this is again in the toolkit, that try to create relationships. Call them in, have a meeting, bring ISPs in, have them present to you, talk to you about what their plans are. Are they interested in your county? Why? Why not? And if you have trouble connecting with ISPs, let us know. And our office can try to help make those connections and introductions for you. So that sort of would be how I would describe the application process, who, and how you can try to make it more competitive in your local location.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. Anna, the survey is going to be open actually until 8/2 now. So I think that's Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So a little bit longer. Joshua, yes, you can definitely share it on your website for the newspaper. We would really appreciate that. And that would,
Right.
Columbia County is kind of like, I'm going to say a hotbed of activity just because y'all have been in the news a lot lately. And we do know about the challenges there are with broadband in Columbia County. And so, yes, please do, especially so we can capture those people who have trouble accessing the internet.
Yeah, and look, real quick, Lori, I think I'm not gonna say I would be disappointed if anyone on this call, has a church email list that they go to, or is a member of the Rotary Club or the Lions Club or Kiwanis, or any sort of email distribution list you have. We would highly encourage you to share the survey within your network. So A, take the survey. B, have your family take the survey, and C, spread it through your network channels as best you can.
And the survey is available in Spanish if you have any people in your life that may speak Spanish as their primary language. There is a little button in the top of the survey to switch it from English to Spanish. So we are trying to collect a few more Spanish responses as well. I did get an email from Montgomery County. That's what I'm looking for right now. Here it is. And I don't know if anybody from Montgomery County is on the call. If you are, please raise your hand. But they had some questions about the grant process. Hey, David. And David's actually the one who emailed me, Glenn. So he had questions about, the time frame, which you just discussed, the cost, which is a very interesting question that I think is kind of a gray area still at the moment. And then he wanted to talk about, are we going to require it to be above ground or underground, and how, what we're thinking along those lines. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So first I'll kind of hit on the timeline piece. I think on cost, it is kind of a gray area. And here's why is, the numbers are always nuanced, and I can try to explain this a little bit. So the latest release of the FCC map would say there's about 215,000 unserved homes and businesses in Arkansas. Okay, and that's the number we've sort of been using publicly. Well, it's more complicated than that. So the current FCC map doesn't take into account, for instance, some of our state funded grants that we've been doing but aren't completed yet, right? But really they've been funded through our office. So we have to take some of those out of the frame because they have money that's been committed. So really the number's probably lower than that. It doesn't take into account our most recent 22 projects that we're getting grant agreements signed on now. That was about another 20,000 locations. It also includes, for instance, locations within the RDOF program that haven't been built to yet. That was also included in some of this stuff. So really, the number of total unserved and underserved locations in Arkansas is going to be less than that 215,000 number that we've been saying. But also, we're going to have this challenge process, right, where local communities, counties, and folks will have the ability to challenge and say, no, we don't think the map is correct. We think we have more unserved or underserved locations, and here's the evidence, because we'll put that out too, what the challenge process looks like, what you're required to submit if you think it's wrong. We're going to walk you through that. So we may add back locations that we don't know about yet through the challenge process. So A is we don't really know what that number is that we have to build to or upgrade, right, as of today, because we still have to work through some processes to get there. And then you're right, an aerial deployment is less expensive than an underground deployment. So that can play a role in how much things cost. I don't know that there is going to be, I couldn't tell you today that the office or the administration would say, look, we're going to make everything be underground, or we're going to make everything go aerial. I think there's probably going to be a mix. And, for instance, providers are going to be able to, when they apply, they're going to let us know how they're going to try to do it. Is it underground? Is it aerial? Is it a mix? Now we may look at some locations and areas around the state and say, you know, this particular part of the state looks like it's more prone to natural disasters in the last 50 years, right? We think there's certain parts of the state that maybe experience more tornadic activity than others. And do we look at perhaps requiring some underground build in certain parts of the state, depending upon geography and some weather issues and what that looks like? So we have to do some modeling on that and take that into account. But I guess the short answer is on cost, it's still a little bit gray because we have to figure out and kind of get to that, what that true number is as far as locations, and B, do some of that weather stuff and look at different regions of the state. So it's hard to say. If I had to tell you right now what we think it would cost, we think the state subsidy to the approximate locations that we think as of today, we hope the modeling would say about 700 million or so ish for the build. But it's a best guesstimate as of right now.
So David, I know your other concern, and at least the way you worded your question is, apparently the last time that we did a grant round that had projects in Montgomery County, y'all had some utility damage due to the underground part of it. Something that we're working on, and we actually met with Arkansas 811 this week, but with any new awards from our office, we're actually going to require the service provider to set up a meeting with 811 to kind of coordinate the tickets that come in, because I know for a lot of communities that just all of the projects that are going on is a huge strain on the water department, for example, who has to go out and mark water lines for, it may be 200, 300 tickets that come in at one time. So we're going to work with them to better communicate, what's coming. And as part of that, require the providers, once they're awarded and the agreement is signed off on with our office, to set up that meeting with 811 and ARCUPS, and even, the water utility and anybody else that's underground in that project area, so that we can better coordinate the efforts and hopefully disturb what's there a little less than what's been going on in the past. What I would advise, though, especially as a broadband committee, if you are working with your county judge's office, or it might be helpful to get in touch with those rural water associations or the gas company, or anybody else who may be underground in your county that we can identify as, unserved or underserved for broadband, and give them a heads up that, like, if they don't know where their underground utilities are, now is a really good time to start mapping those out. Like the stories we heard, especially from 811, is, in those small, especially the smaller, most rural areas, you may have one guy that works at the water department and knows where all the water lines are at. And if something should happen, and he's not available, then no one knows. And so we're almost giving you, 8 months to a year to get those water lines and everything else located. So it would be helpful, I think, from our standpoint, if that broadband committee, if you as a broadband committee can reach out to your county judge and whoever else has knowledge about where the utilities are underground, and make sure that they're mapped out and everyone knows where they're at, and get in touch with 811 too, because they have all those maps on their files as well. And that would help all of us with a few less headaches as these projects get rolling next year. David, did that cover all your questions?
Well, it covered the questions. It didn't give me any answers, but it covered my questions.
We're just so early on. I feel like I don't have any like good solid answers for a lot of the questions we get right now.
Undergrounding has been a real issue in the past. We're a very rural area. Quite frankly, we got water lines and sewer lines that nobody knows where they are because they're dead. I mean, those people that put these things in years and years and years ago are not here anymore. And back in the day, they didn't do maps very well. And as far as having 811 come, it's really premature to have them put marks on the ground to where these things are. So we'll do the best we can to give you the information we need. The county judge is worried, I guess is a good, concerned is probably a better word, about
Yeah.
having the infrastructure torn up.
Yeah. So just to clarify, like, we don't need that information, but if y'all can be collecting it on the ground, as much as possible now, and then get that reported back to 811, I think they would appreciate it. So their locators and whoever else is involved in that process, I'm not fully aware, but that was kind of their ask of us is, what can we do to help alleviate some of the stress I think that everyone has.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. I think it was Mr. Everett with his hand raised.
Yes, can you hear me?
I can.
Following up on what David said, and there is a definite concern with getting locates, and we struggle with that. Anybody that is putting up fiber right now in the ground understands the struggle that there is out there across the entire state of Arkansas of just getting locates. And we deal with, we work very, very, very closely with them on a daily basis. But there are restrictions, of just calling in very, very short locates. So we can't locate anything more than maybe turn in 1,000 feet a day, and they have to do that every day. You can't just call in an entire area. And of course, the locates, as you know, are only good for a certain period of time, 7 to 10 days, and then they have to be called in again. And that's been another issue is, companies that call in 20,000 feet of locates and they only get 8,000 of those done. And then they call in those locates again. So the locators are doubling up on work all the time. And it's not just them, it's the rural water systems that may only have 2 employees and they have to do manual reads, 2 weeks out of every month just to get the reads in, and then go and do locates for the fiber and communications companies, and then fix any of the issues that come up on strike. So I don't know what the solution is, but that is one thing that, in my opinion, has failed across the board, from CAF to RDOF to all of the grants and money that is being put into this, into getting communications, is that the strain really has came upon the utilities, the existing utilities that are out there, and then also just retaining the contractors to do our job, our projects, because we can't get enough work ahead of them because the locates cannot come in fast enough or accurate enough. So again, I really didn't have anything other to say than this is an issue across the board, and we can't just locate and it be there for a while. So it's going to be continuing to be a strain on everyone. So I don't know how to address that, but communication is one thing, and like you said, making sure that we have those meetings well in advance. I don't know that it makes it any faster, but hopefully it helps keep everybody in the know of what's going on, rather than being surprised on things, and maybe makes planning a little easier.
Yeah, sure. And just real quick, Lori, I think, and Randy, thanks for the comment. Look, the locate, and you're right, from both a provider perspective and a community perspective, we know that the locate issue, as you said, is something that's existed as a barrier and a problem across multiple grant programs, really across the country. And as we're hitting on, the more we can communicate between our office, the awardees, the local communities, and the locate folks, the better. I think, it's kind of on everyone, right? It's from it's not the provider's fault, right? If a local community doesn't know where the lines are, it's not the provider's fault. It's, but at the same time, we need to make sure that our providers are communicating properly, and working as much as we can in partnership with the locals and working within their capacity to get it done too. So again, as much communication as we can have across the board, hopefully, can help smooth at least somewhat of those issues.
Chris Holloway, you had your hand up next.
Yeah, thanks, Lori. Randy, I was just going to speak a little bit about what you said related to our project in Northwest Arkansas. We did create a regular cadence meeting with all of the locators and locate companies for all different utilities, and that seemed to be beneficial for progressing through some of these issues that we've seen. But ultimately, what changed it for the better for our project is we just had to fund designated DPS locators, and essentially they were we provided daily direction for them to go locate based on the tickets. It certainly doesn't fix everything, but it did drastically improve our productivity.
Thank you. Yes, I agree. Pam Goodman.
Hi, in order to send out this survey, is there and I'm sure there probably is, and I've just missed it. There's so much great information that's been sent out, but is there some sort of standard text that explains to, the people that we're sending this survey out to, that explains to them why we need them to take the survey and what the advantages are? Because here I am, I'm sending you this possibly suspicious link and you want me to click on it, and nowadays, and why am I doing this? What's the advantage, so that I can send that out and say, hey, we really need this. This is why.
Yeah, so what I'm going to send you after the meeting with the links is I actually have like some pre-made text that you can copy and paste into your message. And it just, says that, the Arkansas State Broadband Office is collecting, information about digital skills and opportunities from, Arkansans. And, please take the survey to help contribute to our plan, that kind of thing. So I'll send that to you as part of the email that I send out after this meeting.
Okay, that would be great. And this goes to August the 2nd.
August
correct?
the 2nd. Yes, ma'am. So we're in our final push.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to talk about? Mr. Herring.
I think I've got it unmuted.
Yeah, you do now.
Okay. I really wish we had the problem of location services in our area. That just implies that you have a project that's underway. Hopefully we'll get there one day. I want to circle back around to the resources that you listed about the ACP program. In Cleveland County, we have our county agent, Danielle Watson, has been aggressively trying to get the message out and to assist the people that would qualify for this in making the applications for such. She mentioned, and it probably would be related to the digital skills or the lack of that certainly we run into with the elderly generation or people that just do not have technology at their disposal. But the difficulty in going through the FCC's somewhat convoluted guidelines to qualify for this ACP program. Just this week, I read an article even on Broadband Breakfast, I think it was, about how that program has had so many people drop out due to the complexities of getting an application to stick. It's really difficult. I've made an attempt to assist my own parents and have worked on it for probably 3 months, and I'm not illiterate in use of a computer, so I'm wondering if anybody else is also running into challenges from the FCC or the program per se, and if so, if they've used any resources to help mitigate the problems that we see simply for trying to get people enrolled in ACP, and this also extends to the Lifeline project. If anybody is not aware, if somebody qualifies for the Lifeline, which is the telephone version of the same program, then they will automatically be qualified for the ACP according to the FCC guidelines. So if you try to go either direction, it's a win-win. But yeah, it's just been really difficult, and trying to find resources to for what Danielle has been doing in Cleveland County to train the trainer, to train some people to help other people get the word out, and then to actually help them execute it. I'll kind of let you guys comment on that and quit talking.
Well, okay, first of all, I'm just going to say that makes me so happy that Danielle. So I went to Cleveland County, and Danielle and I did the trainer for the first time ever there at the Veterans Center in Risen. And so I'm so happy that she's still making time to do that. So that makes my day. But anyway, yes, I will tell you the ACP program it's difficult to enroll. In my past life, before I worked at the broadband office, I enrolled people in the ACP, and it's just, believe it or not, it's gotten easier, and that's sad to say. Even with all the troubles that we have now, that's the easier version of the process. So, I wish I had some advice, but I don't. Other than it seemed to me when you have people who are struggling with the online application, calling the support number, which I know everyone hates to do, seem to help get, especially difficult applications, is the only other way I can think to word it, through the process. So if someone has started the application at home and come back later and they don't remember their username and password, and so you start a new application, the website will let you get all the way to the end, basically, and then it tells you that you've already started an application and we can't, this application is denied. So that actually happened to a lady that we were working with in Risen that day. There's a lot of just little ticky-tacky things that keep your application from going forward. For example, in Hot Springs, and if you ask anybody what their address is in Hot Springs, they're going to say, whatever, Hot Springs, Arkansas, 71916, or whatever the zip code is there. Well, those people who live, in that one part of town technically live in Hot Springs National Park, and it would kick out people's applications because their address was not matching. So when you have, especially if you've been struggling with an application for 3 months, surrender to the process. And I would call the 800 number, because the people on the phone, my experience has been that they're helpful, and they can see more than what we can see on our side, and make things happen behind the scenes to get the application to go through, especially if you've got someone who definitely qualifies because they are on Lifeline already, or if they are in Medicaid or SNAP or any other federal program that would make them be identified up front. We had to do, let's see, I think that day that I was in Risen, we probably signed up 5 or 6 people in the hour that we did the work. And I think 3 of them we ended up having to call the number for help with, because it just wasn't working the way that it's advertised to work. So there are some still hiccups, shame to say. It's been what, 2 years, 3 years since the program started, and we're still having like technical issues. But the other part of that is once you get through the ACP's application process, getting the discount added to someone's account through their service provider is also a challenge, because the service provider has to have your application number, and the name on the account with the service provider has to match what's on your application for the ACP. And there's all of these rules about that as well. So I'm the only resources I have outside of, just my years of dealing with the program and the knowledge that I have built upon. Education Superhighway has a really good ACP educational website, and like can teach you how to fill out an application and how to work with the general public. And that's stuff we want to talk about during next week's meeting. So come back for that if you're really interested in signing people up for ACP. But just know that it is a headache for more than just you, I promise. And I do see a lot of feedback, even from other states, where they try to hold these big enrollment events and they get kind of trudged down in the mud, basically, with just getting the pieces of the application to work the way it's supposed to.
Well, thank you so much. One of those 5 people that you helped sign up was my mother. And it still hasn't completed. And she's so frustrated with the process that she said, I don't want to mess with it. And
yeah,
I'm like, that's not what we need to do. We need to be able to help these people. I mean, when it's your mom, of course, you're going to.
Yeah. So, and they do have like a form. I think there is a form on their website too, where you can kind of open a ticket. But the times that we called the phone number, it seemed to be helpful. Of course, we were only doing like the application portion. And so after I left, I'm not sure how many of those people got it put on their account with whoever their service provider is. So that's, the second step of it. And, something that I'd like to work on in the future is when we do, like, if we coordinate ACP events, let's also have like service providers available that can, immediately swivel chair over and have them get them the discount applied to their account. So something we're working on. Like Chuck Lanius says in the chat, the other problem that I know service providers experience is that if they receive like a cell phone through one of those super discount providers, maybe it's a free phone, those, I don't even know the name. There's like a million different companies, but if you get a free phone because you're on a different, subsidy program for the federal government, a lot of those cell phone providers are using the ACP, sometimes without the knowledge of the person, to give them a smartphone instead of just a telephone that calls, numbers and text messages. So we have found where people were enrolled in the ACP and maybe they didn't know it because their cell phone was using that benefit, sometimes without their knowledge. So that's just another hiccup to it, when we enroll people and you find that, oh, you already received the benefit, kind of thing. So that's just
I just did one for somebody this week for one of those cell phones, and they make it very plain and clear. I mean, you have to initial it, and
yeah,
it's very, very plain. So I don't know
and
how
that's what,
they wouldn't know that.
Well, they hear the story about free phone, I think, and they just go and sign, for a free phone, and they don't read all the details of what is involved with that free phone. So then when they try to add the ACP to their home internet, we get the message that they're already enrolled. So we just transferred it.
It was, but like one of them was a specific paragraph, like 2 or 3 lines in big bold letters about it.
Yeah. Well, I know even on our paperwork, we were making sure that it was clear that, you're aware that if you have it somewhere else, we're going to have to transfer it to this service and all that kind of stuff, just because the ACP has a lot of rules for service providers too. So looks like we've got about 4 more minutes. Is there any other questions that we can answer? Is Trevor still here from Saline County? Because I was going to give him a shout out. It looks like Saline County had their first broadband committee meeting the last couple of weeks. It looks like he left. They have 42 people on their committee. It's like, what? So please don't feel like you need 42 people on your
They have-
committee.
They have, great for them, they have now defeated, Johnson County, and they are in the lead now with the largest number of committee members, so.
That is true. But again, if you've had changes to your committee meeting, maybe since we first talked back in the day, please send me your updated list of email addresses and people so I can get my list updated and we can keep them in the loop. Again, our next meeting is going to be on November. Oh, I wish it was November. August the 10th. And we're going to talk about ACP and other affordability things. So that'll probably be at 3:00 like we normally do. Sorry about the change in time this week. We had a conflict yesterday, but I appreciate everyone joining us today. And like always, I hope you have a wonderful weekend and please reach out if you have any questions.